Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
Definitely not the Freddy's I remember.
Can any of you hear me?
Abby, help us. I will show you the way.
Oh no.
What if your childhood nightmares weren't just dreams but memories? What if the friendly face on that animatronic mascot was hiding a murderer's mask beneath? Welcome back to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, or rather, what's left of it. Today, we're diving headfirst into the much darker, more twisted, and visually intense world of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, the sequel that dares to go deeper into the shadows of the original. Directed once again by Emma Tammi, this film picks up the pieces left behind in the first movie and rearranges them into something bolder, something creepier, and yes, something far more cinematic. But is it enough to please the loyal fans of the franchise? Does the film masterfully build on its predecessor? Or does it just recycle its haunted tricks? Let's break it down, scene by scene, scare by scare, and explore the storyline theories, cinematography choices, and what works and what nearly falls apart in this haunted mechanical madhouse. At first glance, Five Nights at Freddy's 2 looks like a typical sequel. More animatronics, more jump scares, and more night shifts from hell. But underneath the surface, this movie hides layers of narrative complexity, subtle callbacks to the games, and a sinister exploration of guilt, memory, and revenge. The story appears to be set in the aftermath of the events from the first film, but it's not just a continuation, it's a descent. The haunted past of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza begins to unravel, piece by piece, in what seems like a prequel and a sequel at the same time. This time, our new night guard, rumored to be Jeremy Fitzgerald from the games, isn't just surviving. He's investigating, and his motivations seem deeply personal. Could he be connected to the missing children's case? Is he seeking justice or redemption? And then there's the puppet, or the marionette. Its presence isn't just visual horror, it's psychological. The film subtly frames this character with high contrast lighting and slow, invasive camera movements, making every appearance feel like a memory trying to resurface. The cinematography here is intentional. It forces us to look, even when we want to turn away. Then there's the theory gaining traction online, that this sequel is actually told through the mind of a survivor, maybe one of the original missing children, now trapped inside one of the animatronics. It would explain the blurred timelines, dreamlike sequences, and the film's obsession with distorted perception. What's truly compelling is how the movie uses its story to reflect trauma. Flashbacks are fragmented, dialogue is minimal, memories feel more like surveillance footage than lived experience. There's an emotional coldness that seeps into every frame, and it works, because this is not just a horror movie. It's a story about unresolved terror from the past. Whether it's the theory that Jeremy is a relative of one of the original victims, or that the animatronics themselves are battling for control against the spirits, inside Five Nights at Freddy's 2 refuses to hand you the truth. It demands you dig it out, from behind the jump scares, underneath the flashing lights, and through the surveillance monitors we watch in dread. And that's where the film succeeds, not just in scaring us, but in haunting us. Because maybe the true horror isn't what's inside the animatronics. It's what's left inside the people who survived them. For all its visual mastery and nerve-shredding atmosphere, Five Nights at Freddy's 2 isn't without its cracks in the armor. Let's talk about the areas where this horror sequel might leave some fans divided, or even frustrated. First up, the pacing. While the film thrives on slow burn tension, that very strength can also become a weakness. The second act, in particular, starts to feel like a loop. Check the cameras, hear a noise, investigate, repeat. For viewers expecting a more dynamic escalation, this structural repetition might drag the suspense into predictability rather than pressure. The repetition may be accurate to the game's DNA, but cinematically, it risks losing momentum. especially for those unfamiliar with the franchise. Horror thrives on unpredictability, and when every scare is telegraphed by a static camera shot or a sudden cut to black, some of the tension inevitably wears thin. And then there's the reliance on jump scares. Now, don't get me wrong, this is a Five Nights at Freddy's film. Jump scares are practically a signature. But even so, the frequency and similarity of these moments could feel formulaic to seasoned horror fans. What begins as heart-pounding can quickly become expected. When every hallway silence leads to a shriek, the fear starts to fade. Narratively, the film walks a tightrope between mystery and confusion. While it's commendable that the story leans into subtlety, leaving breadcrumbs for fans to piece together lore, casual viewers might feel lost. References to the bite of 87, shadow animatronics, or cryptic flashbacks to missing children are rich for die-hard fans, but potentially alienating for newcomers. There's also the issue of character development. Jeremy Fitzgerald, while effectively portrayed as a terrified everyman, doesn't evolve much beyond that role. He reacts, he survives, he panics, but we don't get much internal conflict or emotional depth. The same goes for supporting characters. Security guards, employees, even the ghosts of the past. They exist more as horror tools than human beings. And let's not forget the animatronics. As iconic as they are, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and the infamous puppet, the film sometimes keeps them too mysterious. Their backstories are hinted at, their motives unclear. While ambiguity fuels fear, some viewers may crave a bit more mythos, especially since the lore is what elevated the franchise beyond typical horror. So in the end, Five Nights at Freddy's 2 stumbles in the same places many game-to-film adaptations do, balancing fan service with accessible storytelling, sustaining tension without monotony, and choosing between lore-heavy mystery or character-driven clarity. But even with those flaws, it never fully falls. And that says something about how well the rest of the film holds together. So after all the flickering lights, distorted lullabies, and unsettling grins in the dark, Five Nights at Freddy's 2, 2025 delivers something rare in horror cinema. A sequel that dares to elevate its own myth. It's not just a retread of what came before, it's a deeper descent, a darker, colder, more psychological experience that trades cheap tricks for sustained dread. Director Emma Tammi leans into the visual language of fear, long corridors that stretch endlessly, shadows that seem to move even when no one's watching, and animatronics that stare at you just a second too long. The fan service is real and mostly respectful. From the subtle use of 8-bit lore elements to haunting nods toward the bite of 87, missing children, and that ever-mysterious Golden Freddy. This is a film crafted not just for mainstream audiences, but for the fans who've been theorizing for over a decade. But it's not perfect. The film has its share of stumbling blocks, uneven pacing, an over-reliance on jump scares, and a narrative that sometimes assumes you've done your homework on FNaF history. Newcomers may feel like they're watching the third act of a story they never started. Still, where it truly succeeds is in its atmosphere. The air feels thick with paranoia. Every shadow feels inhabited. Every silence feels intentional. Cinematically, it's polished. Its production design, sound editing, and lighting choices all work in harmony to create not just horror, but dread. And dread sticks with you. So, is Five Nights at Freddy's 2 the sequel we were hoping for? For fans, it's close to a dream come true. For general audiences, it's an atmospheric horror that isn't afraid to be weird, cryptic, and methodical. As the franchise continues to claw its way forward into a cinematic universe, FNaF 2 stands as a bold, stylish, and slightly flawed, but undeniably terrifying installment. Just remember, it's never just one night at Freddy's. And if the final frame is anything to go by, we haven't seen the last of that golden grin. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more deep dives into your favorite horror franchises. Let us know in the comments, what was your favorite scare from FNAF 2? And which animatronic gave you the worst nightmares? Until next time, keep the cameras rolling, and don't forget to check behind you.